Oh, I didn't even show you my coffee mug. It's very reminiscent of you.
Kick today in the day. 2 of those, they come in black too, but the black mug is about twice the size.
Hmm. Only do the small coffees now.
Yeah.
I still have your kick 'em in the dick sweatshirt in my closet.
Yeah, I have a whole box of those, but times have changed.
Times have changed. Where are you kicking them now?
I mean, no, I same place, but you get in trouble for a lot more now than you used to, so I don't know, but it does say M-E-M, it doesn't say him
Yeah.
or her.
You know, man, I don't feel like I do get in trouble anymore. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really do a whole lot to get,
Actually, I can't monetize on Instagram because apparently they said that I had something that was like self-harm and suicidal ideation stuff.
Oh, would
And
you
it wasn't even something I posted. It was like a reshare of somebody else's post. I was like, you fuckers.
Yeah, I
Mm.
get sometimes people's butt cheeks get me on probation. Like, it's
Yeah.
so bizarre, but it will and it's always like you go against, whatever community guidelines, and
Yeah.
it'll show you the post that it was, and it's like a check-in photo or it's something
You
stupid.
got to put the emoji there.
I know, I know.
Yeah. Look, some people's exit is a bit more pronounced than others. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get what I'm
Mhm.
saying here? So, like, for some people, if you're checking in, you can see, like, the rings of Saturn, if you will, versus where other people, you don't.
Yeah, I don't wanna see anybody's butthole. Do not wanna see a butthole.
No.
Not paid enough to see anyone's butthole.
It's gotta be, like, I don't even know how to, like, bring that up, that, "Hey, I can, I don't know, man."
Luckily, I've never gotten a bad check-in photo. The
Mm,
closest, and it wasn't bad, but, like, I guess the funniest check-in I've gotten is somebody couldn't find either their top or their bottom, and I can't remember which one it was, so they took their photos, but they used the painting tool and, like, painted on fake underwear or bra, but I can't remember. But they were only missing one or the other, and like, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, "I'm just glad you covered it. I don't care. I don't."
I had a 50 or 60-year-old guy do that once, and I was very, very clear. Like, he
Yeah,
did
yeah, well,
the
that's good.
blocked it out, and I was like, "No, no, no, sir. No, sir.
No, s
We're not doing that. Wear some goddamn pants or shorts, you know? Wear some shorts. Put your underpants back on."
it would be more weird from a dude, I guess. Or
I
maybe
mean,
that would be the same awkwardness.
I don't know if they listen to this or they will, but I know Lana always makes fun of Eric and said, "Are you gonna wear your pretty boy panties for Steven for check-ins today?"
Oh my god,
Well, I mean, and to be fair, I'm like, "Well, we're gonna get you gross butt," like striated glutes where you're
yeah.
that lean from stage, and 'cause she hates it, I was like, "Yes." When your wife is disgusted with your butt cheeks, that's when you know you're lean enough.
Yeah, Jake doesn't compete anymore, but the last time he did, he got so small. I remember we were in bed and I was like we were, like, hugging, and I'm like, "I feel like I'm married to a woman right now." Needless to
Hey,
say, he didn't prep again.
what if you were married to Brienne of Tarth? She's like a very large woman. She's got to be like 6 foot. So, didn't you watch Game of Thrones?
No.
Oh my God, you fucked up. She's in
Oh,
Game of Thrones. She's a major character.
okay. Well, I mean, I could be, but I am in fact not married to a 6-foot woman. It was like a 6'2", 260-pound dude, but I think he did, like, the 190 class. He was small.
Woof, woof. I don't, that's like my weight right now. I'm like 185. So, see, a chick at my weight would be wild. But I mean, I guess that's a kind of a good segue. I was going to bullshit more, but we lost it. It's gone. The flavor is faded. It's like juicy fruit in 10 seconds
I
and
know,
fucked.
gone so fast.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about dieting stuff today. By the way, Phil's not here because he has family in town, and oddly enough, his family is more important to him than anybody who listens to this and or me and Kayleigh, which just seems
Yep,
like
so
bullshit.
feel free to send your complaints to Phil on Instagram.
Turtle coaching, right? Yeah. Um, and give him a bunch of weird fucking ideas for next podcast topics for us. So I had one of my old clients message me with this idea, and essentially they were saying, I've been reversing for 3 months. My strength training's come up. It's like 3 days a week now. I'm doing a little bit more cardio, but not really too much. Just like in addition to my daily steps, a little bit of stuff there. I feel really comfortable with my maintenance and where I'm at. I'm at like 2,700 calories a day. Like I said, it's been like 90 days of reversing and away from dieting. When can I get back into a diet? How do I get back into a diet? And like, I'm concerned that my calories are going too high. I should have warned you. I should have read this to you before we started, Kayleigh.
No, it's okay. I just had my normal RBF that is so bad. Okay, so she's on 2,700 calories.
Hey, resting Botox face. That's what we're going to call it.
That is, I know. I can move my forehead a little. It's time. Okay, so he's worried that he's eating too much. Is he gaining weight or he just like,
No, maintaining.
so he wants to know when he can diet again? This is your client or just somebody on Instagram?
He's somebody who I've worked with in the past. And so, like, we just caught up and we're doing like a consult call. So, like a
Oh, okay.
paid one time, like, we're going to talk about your macros, we're going to talk about cardio, what you want to do. I'm
Yep.
going to give you some structure and ideas, and then it's on your own, off to the races kind of thing. I would say, I don't think calories can ever be like quote unquote too high. That's probably coming from the bodybuilding background in me, because there's certainly a spot where like eating so much food becomes an absolute pain in the ass. I remember eating like 500 carbs and 100 fats a day, and that sucked. Like, it
That's a
was
lot.
not fun. It's not enjoyable. And then still getting a lot of, like 200 protein. That was too much food for me. But if you look at someone like Josh, I can have him on 600 carbs and 100 fats a day. And he's like, I'm still hungry all the time, coach. So
Food
I
source
think that,
makes a huge difference too. Because 500 carbs from vegetables and whole foods, you do stuff. But if you add a couple Pop Tarts, all of a sudden,
no, that's with Pop Tarts and shit. I
yeah,
couldn't, there was no way I was fitting in that much food and only having like
whole food.
whole foods or
Yeah.
less processed options.
Yeah. So, what are your like top things you look at when someone sends you a message like that, or even a current client that's like, "Hey, I think I want to diet again." What are kind of the first things you look at to be like, "Is this even a conversation we can have yet?"
I mean, so the absolute first things I look at are the hard data points, right? Where are calories at in relation to body weight? So keeping it relative, if I were to estimate lean body mass or like a stage weight of somebody, if they were going to be that lean, times 10, anything there is a super aggressive diet. Anything over 15 times that lean body weight, projected stage weight in calorie intake, I'm like, all right, cool, this is good. Anything over that, I'm like, money, that's beautiful. And then like, I would say cardio, but include step count stuff in that. Because say somebody is a super active person. I had somebody that just came back and their average low end is 15,000 steps a day.
Yeah, I have a client like that that works for Amazon.
Yeah. Like, cardio is not a real availability for them. They're just so busy and so movement oriented already. We have to focus on keeping that stable. But say somebody's at 5 or 6,000 steps a day, we have all the room in the world to work with. So
Yep.
I'm really kind of looking at it like it's a like it's a savings account or like it's a credit line. And what do I have to spend to get what we want out of it? And so if they're doing, I'll say 5 hours of cardio a week total and a lot of steps, or their food's not in a good spot, we're like, no way. It's just not there right now, because most people come in that in between rounds, right?
Yeah.
It's like that gray area where they're not like really aggressive in a diet. They're not doing an absolute shit ton of cardio where their entire life is mess because they're giving no time to anything else. But they're doing a decent amount of cardio. They're doing some, and they are dieting. They're being intentional. Their calories aren't crazy high, but they're in that middle ground. Those are the ones I think are harder, because most people want a yes or no answer, right? They want black and white
Yeah.
answers. Like, and for them, I'm like, well, we could try to diet, and essentially, I mean, going really aggressive right off the bat. If it doesn't work, we're okay, we're out. Or we could reverse and take time away. Because the secondary thing, I know those aren't just one thing that I like to look at, is how much time has been spent not dieting or away from a diet.
Yep. I love people who come, they're like, "Oh, I've never actually, like, officially dieted." I'm like, "Yes, where have you been, little golden egg?"
Well, I mean, those are the easiest ones. And we were kind of talking about this in a different context, like with contest prep, right? Before we hit the record button. And it's like, the more you diet, say a competitor, if they're competing back to back years, year after year after year after year, that diet only gets harder every year. It only gets more difficult to get to the same level of leanness, if not leaner. And it normally means lower calories, more cardio, and feeling worse through it. And that's an aggressive diet. Yes, being stage lean is not a healthy place, So there's other stuff that comes along with it too. But I would say even just psychologically, we have burnout on so many things. Like, I don't think it's fair to not recognize that being in a calorie deficit is another thing we get burnt out on.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. But I think too, sometimes people, especially in the beginning of their competing journey, you don't know that burnout feeling yet. And you're still running on like your first year, even 2 years that you compete, you're still running on motivation and the high of the sport because you're meeting new people, you're getting on stage. And for a while, everything always feels new each time. And then eventually, you get where you're like, "Okay, I keep winning these shows, now I want an overall. Okay, I got that, now I wanna go get my pro card," or you know what I mean? Like, "What,
Not this motherfucker. I lose shows.
Steven?" But the longer you're in it, your motivation starts to drain, and so if you've been dieting back to back and your motivation starts to go down, it's gonna get grueling for sure.
Yeah. So my normal rule of thumb is I like people to take more time away from dieting that they've spent dieting.
Yeah.
Right. So say that you're a competitor and we had a 6 month prep or a 5 month prep, right? Normal for a natural competitor and for somebody who has a decent amount of weight to lose. Um, I would want us not dieting again for at least 6 months after the last show, the end of diet, quote unquote.
Yep.
Even if we started reversing before that, even if whatever, I want us to have at least that much time off. That would mean we're competing once a year at most. I still don't like that. I encourage most people, actually, I encourage everybody, let's be real, to not compete back to back years. The only time that I think it can be arguable is if you fit the standard, you don't need to build any more muscle,
Yeah.
you're not fluctuating a lot on season, off season, or in a diet, out of a diet, right? You stay within a reasonable amount of weight of where you need to be for stage, that kind of stuff. But if you put on 20 pounds in 2 months after the show, no, like
Yeah, I agree.
you're going to have a bad time. The worst South Park ski instructor in this bitch.
I think people that get away with competing year after, that just keep doing it, one, they're genetic outliers. Their body set point is just lower. People whose bodies, because some people will put on 20, 30 pounds in their off season because when they get to their maintenance, even when they're being really good, it's just where their body wants to go back to. Now, you can fight against that in lifestyle stuff, but when you're competing, you really can't fight that the same because if you try to stay leaner than you should and your body needs that extra body fat percentage, you're going to be miserable in your off season trying to fight that hunger and recovery. And then it's just not a good. And I think those are the main people too that end up kind of spiraling out of bodybuilding because they
Yeah.
tried too hard to hold on and eventually if it's not your hormones or your mental state, something will give eventually, and then you'll be like, "Cool, I hate bodybuilding," or that's usually but that happens, because they push so hard and nobody says like, "Hey, either we need to take more time off," or, "Hey, maybe this sport is just not like, it's just if you're wanting," I don't think people wanna do it because they wanna take people's money, but if somebody comes to a coach and says, "Hey, I wanna be pro, but there's some people that just never will be, and it sucks, but coaches will still take their money and put them through all of that, assuming that they're gonna one day be a pro.
So this is a thing where I realize in terms of sales as a coach that I'm not good at because a lot of coaches, and to stay on the first point, a lot of coaches will blow smoke up your ass. They'll tell you how great you are. That's not that you don't look great. It's not that you're not good or whatever the case may be, but being in the sport for so long, I can look at somebody and like see their structure, their waist to
Yep.
shoulder ratios and their hips and all the rest of the stuff and be like, this person has potential to be a pro and possibly a good pro. And others where I'm like, this person, if they ever go pro, is going to be an absolute struggle and grind. Um, and that's still for a small percentage chance that they turn pro. Like, and to be like,
Yeah,
hey,
and
look,
sometimes it's like the elasticity of your skin. You can't fight that. There's nothing you can do. You can still do a show and you can still do well, but you're not gonna be a top pro. You're
right.
just not.
Which, by the way, being a top pro doesn't allot you the things that you think it does for people that are like watching the pro league level stuff and say, oh, well, they get all this, and that, and that.
Yeah, the
Um,
only top pros that make good money and a good living are the ones that say, "Hey, while I've got the spotlight and the attention of these people, how can I monetize my life to set myself up to make a living off of fitness?" And
Well,
those people
also,
are very smart, but not everybody does that. They kinda think sponsors will come to me or I don't know.
I think people don't recognize that the sponsorships are more work typically than what you're getting in the back end. And a lot of people that are big names in we'll say the bodybuilding community were big names before they were in the bodybuilding community. Like C-Bum was still popular before he was Mr. Olympia, right? Sam Sulek is another one. He was popular before he competed at the Arnold and went pro this year. So there's a lot of there's a big difference between like popularity and popularity in the sport. This guy's actually not a competitor, but and to go back, the other thing I will say this in terms of the people who manage that year after year for dieting down show after show after show all the time. I can't diagnose anybody, but I would say there are probably some other things that maybe aren't healthy going on there that kind of fuel that. One of the things, and I saw it today in a thread on Reddit, and they were saying they're talking about people that stay really lean all year round. Yes, there's genetic outliers. Yes, there's people who don't have to work to do it, but they're like, oh, well, they overcame their eating disorder. I was like, did they overcome their eating disorder if they stay
I
fucking
was hoping
stage
this is where
lean
you were
year
going
round
with
all the
this.
time?
Yeah.
Or
I
or
see
did they just make it look different because now they're doing drugs or now they have the sport to back it up?
Yeah, I see this a lot, and I don't wanna take anything away from it if you had an eating disorder and then you put that.
Seconded, seconded. Like, it's a big deal. My dad had bulimia, so, like, we lived with
Yeah,
that.
like, if you're a top competitor, there is some disordered things to your life. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but to be anybody who's winning, you've got to be obsessed with your food intake. You've got to be obsessed with your training. You've got, it's not healthy. If you went to a practitioner, this happened to me actually. I was there and we were discussing. I'm like, no, this is my calories. I watched them look at me, and because I had just said it, they thought I had an eating disorder. I was like 2 weeks out from a show. I looked like I had an eating disorder. I'm telling them I know my exact water, calorie, macro intake, and I never deviate, and I'm watching them watch me, and I'm like, "No, no, it's bodybuilding." Like, I had to, like but if you used to have it I think there's this that's like I don't know, but I think they trade one obsession for another obsession, and if you are unhealthy body fat percentage, even if you're more healthy than you were when you had an eating disorder, you still in fact have a little bit of a disorder going on in my opinion. I'm not saying it's fact, but I think there's still some unhealthiness that could be going on.
So I think it goes to the mindset that like the sport itself of bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding, not being in the gym, lifting, whatever, getting on stage, dieting, doing all that stuff. It markets very well to people that have that specific personality, right? That addictive personality. I would say church is the same thing for a lot of people, right? And if you quit doing heroin and start going to church and loving Jesus, I think that's great. That's amazing. I was in the churches for years and years and years and years and years of my life. I think that's wonderful. That's obviously a good thing. And the same thing with bodybuilding. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have it is yes, progress overall, which is a positive thing which should be celebrated. However, we don't want to negate the fact that there is still progress to be made for some people with their relationships with
Yeah.
these things.
And I've seen I think I don't know, it's this is a hard topic, but there was a girl I compete when I started in 2014. I don't know if she had a past of an eating disorder, that I'm unsure, but she ended up in an eating disorder treatment center from she got into bodybuilding. I think some people just get more obsessive with it, and it's hard to explain, but once you've seen your and I don't wanna say your absolute best physique, but anybody who's been stage lean, it is really cool to see your body that way. Is it maybe your best? I don't know, but you feel pretty damn cool when you're there. And once you've felt that and felt how it feels to be enclosed, and this is from a female perspective, but everything fits amazing, right? Like, every piece of clothing looks great when you're stage lean or close to it. Some people have a really hard time getting out of that zone then because once they even if you put on 5 pounds, 10 pounds, healthy body fat, they see themselves as bigger than they truly are. Even when they're still maybe the most fit person in the room, once you've seen your stage lean body, and I think it does you do recover from it though, and we were
You
talking like with
can.
disorders, right. But,
You
like,
can recover from it.
I
I don't
know
think everybody does.
yeah, directly after a show, I'll put on 5 pounds and be like, "I'm not wearing this in public." Something just feels tight, but now I'm sitting at 130 pounds. I feel great. There's nothing I wouldn't wear. You know what I mean? But it took a while, like, I had to be away from that super lean body for a while. I don't know if I just kinda forgot what it felt like or what it was, but yeah, you're that mindset, I think some people, like you said, they struggle, and so they fight to stay lean longer than they should.
And I think that like that part of the conversation is just important because like we show people that are lean. We show people on stage. We show people that have, lost 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds, whatever it might be, because it's like, yes, this is cool. This is what you can do. But it's important to still be aware that health is not a number on a scale.
Yeah.
And
I Sorry.
no, I was gonna, and that can have a huge impact on your overall quality of life.
Yeah, I just had a conversation yesterday with a client who she's lost 10 pounds. She wishes she was further ahead than she is. I believe we started in August or July. She's postpartum, so yesterday she's like, "I just feel like like I've let myself down or I'm not doing good enough." And reading through her stuff from the week, she just like they have a newborn, not new, but I mean under a year. And they live in New York, so they walk everywhere. They don't own a car. They have work, like, there's so much going on, and I think I talked about her maybe last week where, like, some nights she's just so exhausted and the dishes aren't done and food's not ready, so they order and I had to explain to her, I'm like, "Hey," because her whole thing was she's in her check-in, she's like, "I looked at myself and I hate my body," and I was like,
That's
"I
the
hate that."
worst thing to hear.
I know, but
Like it
what
hurts my feelings to hear one of
I
my
know,
clients.
and I told her, I'm like, "Whatever reason that you're doing this for, it has to be for more than how you physically look. It has to be." Because no matter you're at your goal weight, above it or below it, that is a permanent or a temporary number that can swing either way. And I asked her, I was like, "Is there other reasons? Like you have a daughter, like your eating habits now, you're setting her up for how she's gonna kind of look at food and look at her body, like how you talk to yourself about your body. She's gonna pick up on all of those things. But I feel like if you can I really have zoned into this lately with my training because eating's not really an issue for me. I think I just get lucky there where I don't crave a ton of things and superfood focused. But with training, have a habit of being like, I just don't have time today, or it's been a hard day, or by the time the kids. But I've really had to set myself up lately. Like, why do you actually want to train? Like, what is the actual reason? It has to be more than like I want juicy butt cheeks because that's not going to get my ass downstairs at 8:30 at night. So I had to really think about, like, how I feel mentally when I train routinely, that I wanna be able to run around with my kids on the farm. I wanna be able to, you know what I mean? Like, if my son grows up, 10 years from now, he'll be 12, and if he gets into football, what if he needs me to run outside with him? I wanna be able to do that. And
What if he gets
so
into
if
boxing and needs somebody to hold pads?
right, but you know what I mean? Like, I think if you can think of it I mean, don't get me wrong, I still wanna look hot in my clothes too, like, I'm a little vain as well, but that can't be my only motivation, that's like I said, that's not gonna get me out of bed or get my ass downstairs to train when I've wrestled my kids to go to bed, by the time 'cause you just need more than that.
So I think, and maybe we'll move, hopefully we'll get into the more nitty gritty on the dieting stuff next.
Okay.
But I think people get into this idea that like I'm supposed to be pretty all the time or I'm supposed to be attractive all the time. It's like, motherfucker, we're all ugly. Give us the right lighting, the right angle, the pushing the neck down and, sitting bent over. And like everybody has some point in time where like their attractiveness dips down.
Yep.
Everybody
We
poops.
are gonna get old if you are lucky enough. There's no hot 80-year-olds. I've never looked at him like, "Damn, he looks good."
So I do have one old lady crush, but it's not because of how she looks, it's how she sounds, Stevie
Unless
Nicks.
it's Dolly oh, I was gonna say, unless it's Dolly Parton.
No, I'm here for that gypsy soul, baby. Come on. Jillian
I'm more
knows too.
firecracker like Dolly.
No, Dolly was never my thing. Like I said, I was always, yeah, which I guess says a lot about me and it shows in my dating history also. Not Jillian, but the others.
No, I knew you didn't mean Jillian.
So thank God you didn't have to meet any of the other ones. So this is the first, like, it also speaks to like the mental, I guess. It's like saying that hopefully if we're going to go into a diet, we're mentally and emotionally in a good spot to do it. Doesn't necessarily mean we're doing it for the best reasons, but hopefully not the worst. And then it's the numbers, that one's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of explanation behind that, I don't think. We're eating more than enough food. Our hunger signaling's not crazy. Uh, we feel okay. We're maintaining weight. We're not having any issues with adherence and keeping to it. That could even mean that we're estimating a lot of things or even
Yeah.
having some intuitive days. I have a client that just restarted with, not the same person, and we have intuitive days at the beginning of their thing because we're getting back to tracking more to look to dieting for a show next year. And so we have more of that freedom and that kind of wiggle room. And then we're locking in most of the days of the week being like 5. I think those things are pretty straightforward, but it cannot be, I think, overstated how important your mental health is as a part of this because it's going to have such a big impact on what you get out of it. So I do think that it can be said a million times, and we probably still haven't said it enough because it gets fucking talks about that. But you should reverse for an appropriate amount of time, and that will also be dependent on like your diet. If you dieted for 4 weeks, like pretty aggressively, and came right back out, okay, cool. We probably don't need a ton of time away from dieting at that point. We just need to take enough time to where things feel healthy and reasonable again. And when we're ready, if and it makes sense, then we can go back after it again. But for me, those are the big things. I don't hear enough people talking about the reverse diet and setting yourself up for a successful diet anymore. Um, when
Yeah.
it used to be something we talked about, I know, at length all the fucking time. And everyone around us that was associated with us, all that kind of stuff
Yep.
was honestly, that's what most people came to us from. They're like, oh, yeah, I got fucked on this diet. I did the show. And now, because that's what they knew as the sport or dieting, it's
Yeah.
like, all I know that a diet is I do an hour of cardio plus every day and I eat 800 calories a day. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That doesn't have to be it.
Doesn't have to be you. Yeah, and I feel like, and because there's 2 sides here. A reverse diet and a lifestyle cut, I feel like goes easier than a reverse from a contest prep. There's kinda 2 different pathways there
100%.
because for a lifestyle, it's very, very rare for me that a lifestyle client would ever go below 1,400 calories because I just don't see if we get down there. And with that said, too, like lifestyle clients typically aren't 100% for months on end. I do have a few that get pretty damn close because they enjoy it, but a lot of people with normal lives are gonna have instances, where they go. So when I get to around 1,400 calories, if they're not 100% pretty much all the time anyway, I'm like, "Hey, I could lower things, but if you're not following at this point, I don't wanna bring your calories down even more for the sake of maybe 5 more pounds that you're probably gonna put back on if you're not adhering now." And I know that sounds kind of rough maybe, but I'm a firm believer there's no point in trying to get your body to a certain weight if you don't intend on completely changing your lifestyle and kind of holding it there outside of bodybuilding.
So
Who
I
does
agree with
really
this.
benefit from that?
Yeah, I agree with this in terms of the idea that everybody focuses on losing weight. People do not tend to focus on keeping weight off. And
Yes.
I think that when you change that mindset and that focus to instead of, I just need to lose 30 pounds and maybe change that to, I need to live my life 20 pounds less. I need to live my life at 30 pounds less. And I need to be able to do that for the next 20 or 30 years. The way that we approach that is completely different because
Agreed.
now it's not a rush, which it should never be a rush in the first place. When a lot of people get into trouble, they're like, oh, cool. It's why I am not a fan of transformation challenges, which we will have a whole podcast on that with Phil at some other point in
Same.
time.
Yeah.
And kind of just talk about what, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hairy buttholes, whatever it may be. You just gotta throw it in there. See, this is
He
why we
might
need a
even
topic.
show you his on that episode. Who knows?
I will not. Mm-mm. Nah, I don't make anywhere near enough to be showing that thing off.
You could do an OnlyFans link. You might be able to make a quick buck, pay off your house.
The bidding war begins. I don't think
Yes,
I'd make.
bidding war to see your butthole. There's probably been crazier ideas, honestly.
I mean, there most certainly have been crazier ideas. And a younger me, it would have been a much cheaper endeavor for you guys. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants to see anybody's butthole. Like, there's
Nobody.
nobody. Nobody's like, "Ooh, show me your butthole."
Because the more that you try and go for the quick results, the less long lasting they are. And the research is very clear. People are really, really, really good at losing weight. It's keeping weight off that people are not good at. Weight regain is insanely high, like for the percentage of people that lose weight.
Yeah.
And so that's the true problem. And nobody wants to hear that because it's not sexy and we're fucking annoying about it. I know we are. I know I am. It's like, but do you want me to just help you do something that you could have done on your own? It is not fucking rocket science to starve yourself and fucking move nonstop until you're
Yep.
skinny. Or do you want me to help you to achieve longer lasting results so that you can continue to be healthier, live a higher quality of life, have more independence as you age, and like see all those other benefits that come along with it?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I wish, but it's just hard because people, yeah, almost anyone, if you're like, hey, I can help you lose this weight in 30 days, you're gonna feel like shit, but you're gonna hit your or hear me out. We take a year, but you're really healthy.
Or just like you feel good, right? Like you're
Yeah.
not fucking trying not to binge the entire time.
Yeah.
You're not feeling like you're gonna fucking pass out every time you stand up. But you don't like feel shaky and weak and like hypoglycemic all the time. Um, yeah. And for most people, so where I would say I'm not on the same page as you is I am willing to be a little bit more aggressive with my lifestyle clients, depending on the client, how long I've worked with
Yeah.
them and how well I know them. I still use that kind of 10% of estimated stage weight as my pretty much bottom end. I might go with people a little bit more aggressive within that, but it's very, very, very short term. And it's still like never below 35 fats a day, ever.
Yeah.
Like those things are still, it is very rare for me to cut anybody below 100 carbs. But it's also different, like for a woman that's 5'8" versus 4'11".
Yeah, that all is in perspective too. Because I'm trying to think. I think I have had someone in like 1320 maybe, but they were like 5'1", and everybody's different. I do find that the older, like postmenopausal women, they tend to. You do have to get a little bit lower in calorie.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my postmenopausal clients too are like, "I just don't have the hunger, Kayleigh. I'm not hungry." I'm like, "How are you not hungry?" You know, like anybody on 1,300 calories tell me they're not hungry, you'd be like, "You're a liar." But some people just have lower hunger, you know?
Which honestly, that's better than like when they're in that menopausal transitionary period, like the perimenopause into menopause, like where the cycle has become a lot less consistent and it's more
Yeah.
erratic, but they still have it every so often. Because for them, I feel like you still have to be more aggressive, but they still have all the hunger stemming and feel like dog ass throughout the entire process.
Yep, and data's harder because typically, you know, I can almost clockwork with people's menstrual cycles where I'm like, "Oop, yep, this is your normal 1 to 2 pound spike 2 days before your period came on." So you have all these predictabilities, but then when they're going through peri and they're in the middle of it, we have these fluctuations, and you're like, "Well, your period never came, so I don't know if it's that. Are you an ovulate?" You know, it's a lot harder to predict the hormonal shifts due, your weight spikes too.
And also, like, I have clients that are on birth control, and whether that's whatever, they just don't have their cycle anymore. But you'll still see every so often these symptoms of like the smaller changes where, okay, it
Yep,
wasn't
they'll
enough for
track
the cycle.
mine. I have a couple like that, and they just in their notes put, like, "Had cramps or had period symptoms, but no bleed." But not everybody is in tune with their body is good.
Yeah. If I'm bleeding, something's fucking definitely wrong.
Or, I mean, I've been bleeding for I almost said 40 years. Let's see, 14, 40 minus 14, Steven, 6, 26?
36.
No,
Wait, 40? 40 or 50?
I'm 40, so
Okay. So yeah,
26 years
26.
I've been bleeding. And still to this day, I will be a raging bitch. And I'm like, why am I so mad? Why am I breathing fire? And then, like, 3 days later, I'll start my period. And I'm like, you think by this point I'd know, like, what's coming, you know? But since Jake has a vasectomy, I'm not like, I don't really worry about tracking my period. Like, I do track it in the app, but I'm not like concerned if it's coming. I know I'm not pregnant. I don't know. I just don't worry about it as much as I did in my younger days. And so every time before I'm paired, I'll be like, why is everybody pissing me off? And I'm like, it's me and my hormones.
Yeah.
Jake's gonna have a time when I go through menopause. I feel sorry for him. Ah!
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah. I feel sorry for everybody that knows me because I'm a B.
No, I'm gonna keep my space. Like we might take a break for a few years while on the fucking podcast.
No shit. Flying in on a fucking broom.
And we were talking about me getting a vasectomy possibly. And then here's this real
I
side
mean,
shot.
Jake's done it twice.
Yeah, I don't want to have to do it twice because Jill was like, "You better hurry up and do it before I change my mind and then decide I want kids again." I was like, "Motherfucker."
Well, the good news is you can't like, he had a reversal. Obviously, it worked because we had Henry. My friend, her husband, I think he's had, like, 2 or 3 vasectomies, and he's gotten 2 reversals, and they got a kid both times.
Yeah, but reversals are expensive. And I'll be honest, if I'm gonna grant somebody access to my sack, it's gonna happen once and never again.
Oh my god, Jake, during his reversal, they let me be in the room, and it's almost like he was getting a, cesarean because his head was out, but there was, like, a curtain, so I couldn't see his privates, and I was up by his head. And the machine kept malfunctioning, and it would almost sound like it was flatlining. I don't know what it was, whatever. So at one point when it did, he pretended like he died. And they're like in there, I'm laughing. The doctor gets mad at me because he thought I was making fun of Jake for having his balls cut open. And I'm just like, him and I are
Valid.
just like dying laughing while I don't know, maybe it's not as funny as I thought, but it was a pretty good memory. And it took
I mean,
forever, I
sounds
felt
like a
like.
good memory. Yeah, see, I just don't need people fiddling with my diddlies.
Yeah, yeah, you're awake.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
Dislike.
Dislike.
Yeah, not about it. So, all right. So, say somebody's at 2,700 calories a day, and say they're doing 2 hours total cardio a week. Where would be your normal go to? I feel like there's a lot of people that expect just maybe coaches to use an equation for everything. Woo, science. Um, and then there's some that are just like, but plenty of coaches are like, oh, you want a diet? Okay, here's your fucking meal plan. It's the same for everybody, and it's like 800 calories and a fuck ton of cardio. Or there's like a couple meal plans. And so like here's our off-season meal plan. Here's our beginning of diet meal
Yeah.
plan that sucks, but it's not complete hell. And then here's the one for when I'm just gonna starve you into fucking existence.
Yeah, so you're asking me what I do in the beginning of a diet? Like, what would my
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Who cares about my opinion?
So, I typically only lower things. It kinda depends. If they're, like, vaguely tracking, I'll say, "Hey, let's keep calories exactly the same this first week. Diligently track everything, and let's see what happens." Because if you haven't been, like, 100%, you probably need to change 0 and just be 100%. That'll work for a lot of people. I like to get the most juice out of the squeeze I can before we gotta lower things. Now, if they're like, "Hey, I've been, like, 100%, I know, like, exactly," then typically I do a 2 to 300 calorie come down, but it depends on the person. Protein, I very rarely move around between off season and on season. An exception to that is lifestyle clients is a little different because when they start there's no black and white answer here, but if they've never really tracked protein, I'm not starting their protein where I would actually like it because you can't take somebody who's been eating 30 grams a day and be like, cool, now you're going to have 150 because it's
You
not.
would have to work to only get 30 grams of protein in a day.
I know, but you'd be surprised people's diets.
Fuck.
Um, so Anyway, what was I going with that? Oh, yeah, protein, I rarely change. Anyway, so I would lower if they're at 2,700, I'd probably drop them to like 2,500. If they weren't a current client, that protein's usually one. I've actually had somebody come to me recently. They were 130 pounds eating 190 or 200 grams of protein.
Yep.
And
Yep. Seen
so
it.
right away, I'll bring, if there's anything or if they're chronically under eating fats, those are going to get popped up. So sometimes it's just a redistribution of what they're currently doing where I feel like it would be more optimal. Cardio, and it depends on the aggression, but if they're like, and if they have a timeline too. So if somebody's like, hey, I've got this trip or this wedding or whatever and a deadline, that might change how aggressive I get as well. Because if somebody's got a deadline, who am I to be like, cool, you don't need to be fit for your friend's wedding? Like, I'm not going to tell them that. Unless they're like, hey, I go in 3 weeks and I'm gonna lose 20 pounds.
So let's dial in on protein first. I feel like it's an easy one. It's normally the first thing I'm looking at for people, and I'm sure you too, because it's the one adaptive macronutrient, meaning if I eat enough protein, it tells my body, cool, we can repair and make new muscle proteins. and do things with that, which is great. And so, like, if somebody's really low, I will bring them up a little bit, but I'm not going to bring them up where I want them. It's just like I will bring them to, I think, bottom end of the threshold, which is less than most people think it is. To say they're 130 pounds, I might have them trying to hit 80 to 90 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, this is where I want us.
Yeah, I'll
Would I
usually
like
do,
this
like,
higher later
point
on?
0.6 per pound, if I'm trying to low end them in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's the low end in the research that I've been hearing about and seeing is it's like zero point 0.7 per pound.
Yeah.
Like, so zero point 0.7 grams per pound of body or lean body mass is the bottom end of the protein recommendation. So say you're 130, your lean body mass is 100, whatever, 70 to 80 is more than fine. We're still going to be able to grow muscle and do things.
Yep.
But the other thing that I like to switch around it for is the hunger signaling stuff, right? Protein tends to be more satiating, more filling,
Yep.
which I think is why some people have a hard time eating it. They don't like that feeling of fullness or that heaviness in their stomach. But for a diet, that's actually a really good thing because it helps us
Yeah.
keep us from overeating on other things.
Yep, and I actually had a client mistakenly on their part, they checked in and they're like, "Hey, hunger was higher." So I added what they do, I took away some protein and gave myself extra carbs so I wouldn't be as hungry, and I was like, "Well,
Whoops.
you did the opposite, like, this is a learning experience, you did the opposite of what you should have done to feel less hungry," but they didn't know, right? She thought she didn't wanna bother me, and she was hungry, so she thought if she just switched some stuff, because and I told her, I said, "What," and I tell this to clients a lot, there's a really big difference between true hunger and either boredom or whatever it is.
Appetite is the word we use in the scientific literature.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hunger being the physiological hunger, appetite being that psychological feeling, thought process, I'm hungry.
Yeah, so if you're and I always tell them, like, if you are truly, truly hungry, I want you to eat, right? I don't want you to pass out by any means, but I'm like, if you had a bowl of chicken and a vegetable in front of you, if you're truly hungry, you're gonna eat it. If you're like, I'm not really in the mood for that," you're not hungry. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that to be
That
mean, but
really hurts.
that really hurts. But
That
and I
that's insulting to my oatmeal cream pie fucking underwear drawer snacks, okay?
Oh, you have oatmeal cream pies in your underwear drawer?
Oh, that doesn't sound good, does it?
I just meant I was gonna make fun of you for the cream pies, but yeah, saying it out loud sounds even worse. Poor Jillian.
Ugh, my face is so red right now. Well, that's what I get from Sam's Club that had a lot of snacks. I have the other end of the spectrum where it's hard for me to get food in nowadays or enough food in. Um, but I am absolutely on board with like the minimal effective dose thing too. I think this is where most people mess up with they go in and they're like, all right, well, how big of a cut can I make that I think I can manage? Like how much can I possibly do like to go hard on the diet? And it should be like, what's the least amount I need to do to get positive benefit?
Yep.
Like what's the least amount I need to do to be able to see weight loss?
And the plus side of doing that is you are a lot more likely to keep that weight loss off if you did the minimal dosage possible to get there. Because if you did something extreme, the odds of it swinging the opposite way when you're done are pretty damn high.
I always I liken it to the idea of anything that I'm rushing. I don't think there's ever been a single time where I've rushed something where it's been my best work or when it's been the most quality or dependable or any of that stuff.
Yep.
If I'm rushing things, I'm giving up quality or something else, confidence in it
Yep.
typically. And I think dieting's the same, although for some reason the industry of fitness and health and wellness and all this other stuff, I think in large part has taken that away and said, no, 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 just make crazy transformations because it's visually appealing and we can market the fuck out of it, but it doesn't actually help you.
Yep. And when you do slow and steady, depending on the amount of weight you have to lose, your skin elasticity has more time to kind of come in as well. Because I know this from postpartum where you have a baby and you do drop, 20 ish pounds overnight, because your baby weighs what it does, the water weight, whatever it is. Um,
Are there different amounts of placenta? Like,
I mean,
does
yeah,
someone
your
like
placenta
super
grows.
much?
I didn't put them both side by side, but it looks like a big steak that just comes out when you're done.
I don't know. I don't know. This is obviously not the place to question this, I guess. Everybody's gonna be like, what the fuck is he asking?
I know. You have the placenta, you have the umbilical cord, you have the amniotic fluid, you have, like, there's so many things that come out. So anyway, your stomach doesn't go right back. Like it takes time. So even in dramatic weight loss, it's the same thing. And some people will still have loose skin, but my skin 1 year postpartum on my whole body is very different than what it is now at 2 years postpartum because it just takes time to come back together.
And you won't always get all the elasticity back. If
Correct.
you've lost a significant amount of weight, or if you're going to lose a significant amount of weight, there is a high likelihood that you will have loose skin left over.
Yeah,
And
my
that will
lower abdomen
impact,
has some still.
yeah, and that will impact how you see yourself too, because it will make you feel like you're less lean than you are. And I've had that with a lot of people who have dropped over 100 pounds or so and gotten on stage and are like, but I just don't feel like I'm as lean as them. I was like, we just have extra skin. Like, look at the spots that are the real telltale, like abs, glutes, hamstrings, low back. There's extra skin there, but you're fucking lean.
Yeah, a really good way to look at it is when you see people who, well, women, I guess, guys don't have boobs, but when they post their abs, they're pulling up. Everybody's always like, why are people always pulling their boobs up? It's because it tightens the skin, which in turn shows the abs more. So when you have skin laying over your muscle, you're not going to be able to see it as much. It's just how it is.
Actually, I think that's a good point for women because nobody likes to admit this or acknowledge this. One really good spot to take measurements for if you're in a fat loss phase or a recomp phase is the chest for women. Because, like it or not, when you lose body fat, you're going to lose it from your chest.
You
And
are.
you might feel like you're not making progress sometimes on some weeks. And that's where it's coming from because
Yep.
we don't get to pick. And
Yep.
yeah, that sucks, but ah,
I recently, when I was in prep a month ago, this guy that's following me along, I was like, I noticed something different. You got a breast reduction. I'm like, or I got my boobs. I'm like, no, I fucking didn't. I just lost them. Like trying to be sly, like, I noticed, your titties are different. You got different implants. I'm like, nope.
blocked.
Right.
Fucking blocked. But yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different things, which is I think why people find value in our jobs because we help people and pay attention to like all these things and say, hey, look, okay, we haven't lost weight, but now we're working out. We're way stronger. We're lifting 3 days a week. We didn't used to be. Our waist is down 4 inches. We've lost body fat. Even if the weight hasn't changed, it means we've
Yep.
traded it out. And we'll have to do that other conversation about like the off season or maintenance and growing
Yeah,
phase.
yeah, because there's just so much, and it's so hard with fitness. Because, and I'm sure you get DMs too, people will ask a question, but there's like, I feel like if you're a good or knowledgeable coach, there's not one answer for a whole lot of fitness questions because it's so different per person, per situation. What worked for the same exact person 2 years ago might not work now, depending on diet history and health. And there's
I
just
think
so
even
much.
work,
Huh?
even their job can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like think about me when I used to wait tables. So I work a double. I'd have 24,000 steps in a day. While I was working a double, waiting tables. I could have a day where I hit less than 6,000 as a coach.
Yep. And
Like
your
that was a
job depends a whole lot on your diet adherence too, because it was a whole lot easier for me to stick to my diet when I worked outside the home. Because it forced me,
mm,
one, everything was packed and ready. Two, whatever I left the house with is what I'm eating because I'm not in my house. Like this is the food I have. And everything was a lot more on schedule too, right? Like I had to get up and have breakfast at this time and then go to work. I had set breaks at work for my snacks, my lunch, my second snack. Everything was very routine, and for me, that was easier. At home, now I'm hungry. Even if my food's prepped, I'm gonna walk into my kitchen and my pantry with all my food options,
yeah.
and
Um,
that's harder for me.
I'm just cheap. But that's why I'm not gonna fucking spend more money.
You know how much money I've saved and how I stay skinny now is because we live out in the middle of fucking nowhere, and there's not DoorDash here.
Ooh, we don't. I would. So my household, I am way too fucking cheap to DoorDash or Uber Eats anything. The
Not
only
me. Or I'd get high. Jake and I'd be like, "Who wants a blizzard?"
the only chance in hell I would ever have it doing that is if I was on a work trip and I get to write it off, like business expense. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so calories, carbohydrates, and fats just depends. Really, carbohydrates is the one we don't need. Fats
Yeah, I
for
keep mine
guys,
at
I don't.
40. or above.
Yeah.
For clients exception, if they're in a contest prep, we may go down to 35
Yep. Yep. Same.
for a short period of time if we need to.
Yeah, I will have smaller women that might be at 35 for a longer period of time, depending on what we have to do. But I really try to avoid going under 40 on fats for women. I try to avoid going under 60 fats for guys. Now, that's not going to work for everybody, obviously, but 45 would be my hard bottom end for guys. I just do not like that's,
That's your hard bottom end for dudes?
yeah, yeah. Kind of
Sorry, I did not.
like the cream pies are soft. That one's hard. Yeah, like there's no wiggle room there.
That made it worse.
Yeah. I don't even trying.
What how do people even listen to us?
I'm a gentle boy.
Man, you've made it worse again.
Damn it. So how about like the steps for cardio? Because this is one where there's obviously we can pick and choose. This is like again, go back to fitness theory. People are like, I'm doing no cardio in my prep, and they're doing like fucking 20,000 steps a day. I'm like,
Yeah,
get fucked,
so
you're not doing any cardio.
my client that works at Amazon, 20 to 25,000 is real common. And we just pulled out of her prep. And I think her cardio, we only got, I ended up having her like 5 days a week of 40 minutes. And even when I did that, I said, I'm sorry. You know, her food
It's
wasn't
rough.
terrible, but it's like we have to try something, right? And you also need enough food to get through your shift and to get through your daily life. And so for her, we just end up realizing like, that this isn't working for this season. Let's regroup, whatever it was, or whatever it's going to be. But what I do is I look at their steps. If those are insane, I'm like, we're going to start the diet with like 4 days a week at 10 minutes, like your warm up for your lift. Like we're going to add it if we need to. But for you, and I'll tell the client this, for you with your step count, we're going to focus a lot more on nutrition versus cardio and typically people who have a very high step count like that, they don't have a lot of extra minutes in their day either. And so I take that into account, especially lifestyle clients, because you have to make it work. And can somebody grind for 4 months and add some cardio? Yes. But just like with your eating, if you can't maintain that output long term, the weight will come back. And so, but if they're like, hey, I don't even track my steps, I'm pretty sedentary, then usually kind of my standard there is like 3 or 4 days of like 20 minutes, low intensity, steady state. And then I say, let's start tracking your steps. Like if it's somebody who never tracks, I'm like, if you have a way of tracking it, great. Let's log that every day. I can give a recommendation once we get an average out of that if we need to. But I set one or the other, step count or cardio. I don't do both because I think it's overwhelming and it's confusing and people get obsessed with it where they're like, hey, I did my cardio, but I didn't have my steps. So then I jumped on the treadmill and did this amount of extra cardio. Well, now that's cardio, right? Like it gets very confusing. I feel like to do both. I know some coaches do a calorie burn versus an actual set, like however long it takes you, I want you to burn 300 calories in your cardio session. But again, then we get into how are you monitoring it? Because unless it's a chest
Yeah.
strap, we're probably not it's not going to be real accurate anyway.
Well, I would say even if it's a chest strap, it's not going to be super accurate. If we want it to be as accurate as possible, you have to have the fucking mouthpiece on and be doing, CO2, O2 exchange and stuff and looking at
Yeah.
REO.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like the calories burn thing because it's just,
I don't either.
I think it's another thing that's unnecessary. And again, tomato, whatever, pick your poison, whether that is or not. If somebody's super low on steps, I will oftentimes just give them steps. I will be like, we're not have cardio,
Yeah.
but you've been at 6,000 steps a day. I want you to work on hitting 8,000 steps a day. People might not realize that an extra 2,000 steps every single day is
Adds up.
substantial,
Yep.
right? And so
And
will I change
that
both sometimes?
doing that for them might just set up really good habits like, oh, I'm going to park further away. I'm going to take the steps because they're like, I got to do it anyway. And once you start doing those things, you start doing them without realizing it that you're having to make yourself do them. It just becomes routine.
Right. And for some people, I will add steps and cardio. Like if we're in the end of a prep or a hard diet, and like we just got a little bit fucking left to go.
Yeah.
Like let's just get after it. I will say this step count, and this is where all the research is going on like metabolic adaptation. What we've thought it was is more like changes in non-exercise movement. How much I talk with my hands, how many steps I get, how aggressively I pet my dog's face. Whatever it might be.
Well, look at a
That's
20-year-old. Like, go to any sports, like high school sports thing. Look at what the 20-year-olds are doing versus the 50-year-olds. 50-year-olds are probably sitting on the bleachers, having their kids run and get them stuff because you're fucking tired. You're old.
I think 37 last year, or maybe the year before, 36. Mid 30s is when I just started being fucking tired all the time. I was like, fuck this. Um, but like that can be a substantial change. And I do like the cardiovascular exercise, and they're different things. So say like for me, if I have somebody where like, oh, I didn't hit my steps, so I got on the treadmill, but it was at like a 1% incline and at a stroll, and I just watched TV while I was doing it and it was chilling. That's step count. That's fine. Cardio, I want to be a little bit more, and I give my clients these outlines. I want it to be something where like we're working a little bit harder. The heart rate is coming up a little bit. It's not in any kind of specific zone that I'm, based on numbers. It's like, okay, cool. I could do this for hours on end, but I could maybe hold a halfway decent conversation. Not a great one. I might get a little bit of a sweat, that kind of thing. And I like that for also cardiovascular health and the adaptations that come along with that. Step count, once you get past, I think the number is like 7,000 steps a day, there's no additional health benefits after that. The 10,000 steps a day is just a nice round number that's used for marketing, cool, whatever. But the truth of it is like 7,000 seems to be like the cap of where we see health improvement from. So whatever we need to do, I like to pair that initial calorie cut of like maybe say 200 or 300, which probably about the same for me. If somebody's a lot higher calories, I'm going to make a more intensive cut for them typically,
Yeah,
just
if
to
they're having
make
like
sure.
3,500 a day or something, then I might be like,
Yeah.
"Mm."
Yeah. I'm probably going to go to 3,000 right out the gates.
Yeah.
Um, But one of the other things that I think people don't recognize, and Campbell's been talking about this a lot more lately, but the research isn't necessarily new, is that when we start a diet, a lot of people will go from more processed food options that don't take the same energy investment to get the energy out of, to a lot more whole food options where there's more fiber and your body has to spend more energy to get the same calories out of those. And so that in and of itself for some people can create a difference. I'm eating the same calories, quote unquote, but they're from very different sources.
Yep.
And so say if you're on 3,000 calories a day and you have a 15% difference in the thermic effect of food because you were eating straight sugar the entire time on the other one, and now we're eating, spinach and broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels, whatever. Um, don't eat all the fart stuff. It will tear you up. Trust me.
All the
Um,
fart stuff.
all the fart stuff, the cruciferous vegetables, be sparing with them, use them intelligently. Um, so at 3,000 calories, that's 450 calories a day in difference in terms of the thermic effect if it was at that high end. Realistically, it's probably less, let's be real, but it can still be a significant amount of calories that you're seeing a change in. It can still be, 150, 200 calories of a difference that you didn't actually eat different calories. Your body just has to work harder to get the food to break down and to pull those calories out. All right. That non-exercise active thermogenesis, it's different than what we're talking about with his thermic effect. But this is one of those things that we can not even necessarily notice and be cognizant of, oh, this is something that helps me to lose weight that I didn't even recognize.
Yes.
Because I see that from people all the time. They're like, okay, cool. I've been doing intuitive. I've been blah, blah, whatever. And so week one, we keep calories the same and macros consistent. And all of a sudden, fuck, they're down 1.5 pounds. You're like, whoa. It's like, well, yeah, I just really changed my food sources. Okay. And then you can keep playing that out. I didn't actually have to cut calories
Yep.
to get them to see improvements. But if you're already eating fairly healthy and well and not eating just Pop Tarts and fucking ice cream all the time, that ain't gonna be you, mate.
Speaking of this, we could do a whole episode on this. We don't have to go, but I would love, even if it's after we're recording and then we can share it later, but I would love your experience with or opinion on, speaking of foods and how your body processes them. Do you have a client or researched any where they take your blood work? I'm going to word this
Oh, are you talking about the blood type diets where like they tell you based on like your blood
your
alleles, like whether you're
genetic
AB,
profile. Yes.
so what that's based on,
But
and
not like a food sensitivity test. Not because that's very different. Not like a
right.
prick your finger, mail it in thing, like having it done by practitioners, like a legit facility, not a mail in, like here's a drop of blood.
So I'm not familiar with actual genetic testing when it comes down to food sensitivity to those kinds of things. What I am aware with of is the allele, like the blood type diets, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're type O, you should eat these foods.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
no, no,
type
no, no,
B."
not that.
That's bullshit. Like, that one is completely not complete
Yeah,
nonsense.
yeah, no. I think, like, Penner Test might be a brand that does that. No, this is like a legit so, like, because I have Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, I should be better about my food selections because there are certain things that will keep the inflammation down and keep like, when I eat more gluten, dairy, typically, it's often when I do that, my antibodies come back higher because I have to get it tested ever so often. So, my sister who has the same diagnosis, who will be thrilled I shared it on, publicly. She had this
Yay!
done,
She's
and
never gonna
she
look
was
into this,
having
you're
a
fine.
whole lot of it. Her antibodies were, like, 2,000, like, very, very high for her. Anyway, she did this. She's been eating like, they gave her a list of, like, these are foods that you should have no reaction to. These are foods you should eat maybe sparingly. She's been following it. She dropped, like, 10, 15 pounds, and her calories have been the same, like, used me for coaching. So, anyway, long story short, I'm going to do that next month, so I just wanted your feedback on that. Doesn't mean that I'll follow it, doesn't mean that it's, like, this make all, break all thing, but I have been more fatigued lately, different things, so I wanna see if how their food recommendations, how I feel following their recommendations.
Yeah, so I have other people I could reach out to who have more of, like, genetics and, base for their education.
Yeah.
So I'd probably have to, like, reach out to Carl, for that, or I guess Dr. Carl, whatever, um, to give you a good answer. I think most people, it's the same that, like, the wellness industry and the fitness industry gets in general, where, like, it's
Over
low hanging fruit.
Yeah,
Right. Right, it's like, "Oh, you're gonna feel better if you eat these foods," and just generally, there are things that are easier on digestion, maybe lower FODMAP,
right.
maybe, like, healthier, less processed option. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I really do feel better eating these foods." And I'm like, yeah.
But
The hard part is when you get in that, like, okay, these whole foods make me feel shitty. These whole foods make me feel good. And I'd be interested to see that because, like, I have GERD. Of course, there's a whole list of foods in GERD that you're supposed to avoid, right? Like, fucking avoid garlic, avoid pepper, avoid anything with caffeine, avoid this. Some of those things on that list don't fucking bother me.
yeah, and that's where I'm at because with the Hashimoto's, like, I don't wanna cut foods out that I don't have to cut out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't wanna just blanket cut things out because most people with this diagnosis so that part and I also think anybody listening to this is like, "Oh, I should do that so I can drop 10 or 15 pounds like her sister." Understand that I mean people who are already getting their sleep adequate, they're routinely training, they're getting in their water, I'm tracking my macros, so it's not something where it's like, "Oh, this will be the savior." It's I'm already doing everything else. I'm fatigued. My antibodies are still high. It's kind of like supplements. Don't throw a bunch of supplements in your body when you haven't even had any blood work done. You don't even know if you need B12. Like people will just be like, "Oh, it's supposed to be good for you. I'm going to take this because, whatever it is." Like, do you even know that you need that? Or are you just wasting your money on
Yeah.
something?
I'm a terrible supplement salesman.
I am too. I am the worst because even when I send out my new client plans, I'm like, these are recommendations. Know that to get the results you want, none of these are mandatory.
Yeah. I'm just like, most of your stuff should be dealt with without supplements, right? Like if you're having to take like an ashwagandha or cortisol supplement, but you're not looking at how you reframe stressful situations, if you're not looking at how you're handling your anxiety, if you're not like, we're great, it's a band aid. You still need to fix the underlying thing that is creating the issue there,
Yeah.
right? I would say creatine's probably the only one where that doesn't really
Yeah,
apply.
that is one where I'm like, hey, like everybody can benefit from this. I feel like everybody can benefit from that. But yeah, I'm a terrible supplement.
Yeah. And then it's like with fat burners too. I guess we're getting off topic now, but like
I
fat
know.
burners,
We could do a
it's more
whole
protein.
episode on supplements. Fat burners, I have never had on a supplement recommendation list my entire career of coaching.
I've only ever recommended them for people that need or feel like they need
Energy.
something to help with appetite suppressant.
Yeah,
Yes,
or
managing.
energy, yeah, and a prep. Now, I've recommended them to people now it's not ever on a starting plan kinda thing, but yes, people in a prep where they're like, "Hey, getting real food focused and tired." I'll be like, "Hey, this might help."
And then that's a problem coming out of it too. But whatever.
Yeah, well, that's just like GL1Ps for reverse dieting right now, post-show is real big, and it's
Oh my gosh. I mean, people using them for the actual diets.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think one, I'll say competitors shouldn't be using fucking GLP-1s. They're not for you, motherfuckers.
Well, the
I'm
whole
not
thing
gonna edit
is
that
if
out
you're
either.
using a GLP-1 in your reverse, you're now gonna need a reverse from your reverse because eventually you've gotta pull that. Eventually, that Band-Aid is gonna have to come off. Now, it could still help ease it from, like, I think that mind because 'cause you're just very food focused, even if you're getting more calories, like, coming out of a contest prep is a whole new demon, so 100% not saying it wouldn't be beneficial, and most of these people aren't like, they're not stealing diabetic medicine, right? A lot of them are getting from compound pharmacies or, there's plenty of them being made. I don't think that that's
I don't think
a hard.
compound pharmacies can make them anymore because now they've made up with demand, they have enough of them out, but they also have different types out now,
Yeah,
and
and
there's, like,
there's
more
people don't
variety.
understand that either. There's a bunch of different options and a bunch of different things. But anyway, I think it could be very beneficial to get that initial, but you're still if you use a GL1P to reverse out of a show, you're going to then need a reverse from that because you're eventually gonna have to pull it.
Well, I find most people, like, if we're because I've worked with plenty of people coming off of GLP-1s too, or that they are on GLP-1s and we still need to
Like
diet induce
Virgos,
them.
yeah.
Like, when they're coming off and titrating down on their dosages, like, it's going to have an impact on hunger signaling. And
Mhm.
so, if their hunger starts getting high, it's like, okay, well, how do we manage that but still get off? And this is where, like, there will be people that don't understand that. I don't understand it. I don't have a lot of hunger noise and a lot of food noise, but other people fucking do all the
Yeah,
time.
it's a real but it reminds me of just like a traditional lifestyle diet with no GL1P. I think whether you're paying a coach and you're going through a traditional diet or you're using a GL1P, in both of those
GLP-1.
scenarios, you have to change your lifestyle. You have to learn new habits. And if you can do that, either one of those things are going to be gold for you. Because if a GL1P helps you lose 80 pounds and also taught you portion control and having healthy foods, great, it's going to work. But I know some people, non-clients, that have used GL1Ps to make these great transformations because, you know, they're eating more palatable foods because they can get away with it and they're not eating much. So a lot of those people that I know are not like, "Hey, I used it, but I'm eating chicken and broccoli and sweet potatoes and all these things." Now, if somebody in a prep, this is where we could go on and on either way on this.
This is where I'm going to delineate why I think bodybuilders shouldn't be fucking using them. Um, Because it is not, hey, like, yes, you have food noise, but you have food noise because you're dieting extremely fucking
Yes.
aggressively. You're extremely low body fat already. So your hormonal profile for hunger signaling is already fucked. And you're not the people that they studied this with. It's not meant for you. This is meant for people who have serious weight problems in terms of being very overweight that are not finding the ability to control it so that that will cut that food noise, cut that hunger signaling down, and allow them to eat less and diet and get to a healthy spot. Like, it is not so that we can go from a healthy spot to an unhealthy spot, or so that we can say, oh,
Helping
well,
through
I
the
really
eating
can't.
disorder.
Right, right. So that we can manage the eating disorder, or the eating disordered behavior,
Yes.
um, and be like, oh well, I have a hard time pushing underneath 1,200 calories, but I'm not responding anymore, and I'm already doing 2 hours of stairs a day on top of it. So I'm going to start taking this, so now I can do 800 calories a day and do all this extra. I was like, no, motherfucker, that's a terrible
Well,
idea.
and there's now some of these drugs, they haven't been as mainstream, but they've been around, like, I wanna say 10, 15 years, but don't.
Yeah, because they've been diabetes medications.
Yeah, but when you're in a bodybuilding prep, you're already down-regulated your hormones, you're already at an unhealthy body fat percentage, you may or may not also be taking a steroid or a peptide or diuretics or a water cut because I don't know how the.
Okay, not if you're my client, you better fucking
No,
not
I
be.
know, same, but you know what I mean.
Right. These people
So,
that are being seen and
you're
talking about these
already
things.
putting your body through that. You don't know what's gonna happen, and neither does your coach because it hasn't been utilized in the bodybuilding community or any, even lifestyle for long enough. But I do know that friends I have that are on those, there's like you're gonna have extreme stomach pain. There's a lot of different things that can happen and acid reflux because your stomach's not going to empty at the correct rate. So like you would be a terrible candidate, Stephen, for GL1P because if you already have that issue and now what are you going to do? Acid up your esophagus? You know what I mean? Like, people don't think
Mm.
about that, but there's some serious repercussions that could happen because your body is already in a state.
So I think some of that probably comes from, at least from what I've heard from clients and people in the industry, is like they don't titrate up the dose for the individual enough. They just give them a larger dose to start off
Yeah.
with. Like, here you go. And that's when they have like, they just feel fucking terrible.
Well, the ones my friend uses are in a like a it's
The
already
preloaded pen.
pre-dosed. Like, you couldn't even pick your dose, like, it's you get the 2.5, the 5, or the 10. I don't know what they do.
Yeah. So they do make different ones where like you can click the back of it to choose the dosages on stuff.
Oh.
The Dupix when I was on Dupixent for what they thought was my asthma that was coming from
Uh-huh.
the acid reflux, those were preloaded pens, and so it was just stab yourself in the leg, and
Yeah.
that's what you're getting. But, I mean, this is where and this is why I think it was such a disservice that we had so many pop-up clinics and malls and everywhere else is fucking giving people shots all the time, is that those individuals, they're not really keeping up with people, I think, the way that they need to really serve them for health. This is a healthcare thing. That's why it's a medication. It's a fucking medication.
But it's real easy now. I mean, you used to have to, like, make an appointment. Like, it's very easy to jump on a telehealth and get pretty much whatever you want. Like, we're in a state of it's like there's 2 sides to this. Some people went super all natural, they're not putting anything bad in their body, and the other people are like, "Give me whatever you got to give me an edge." You know what I mean? Like, it's
Uh,
the people it is like you're either, like, homesteading on a farm, making your own butter, or you're like, "Where's my steroids and gel one?"
What about me? I'm just in the suburbs. I'm like, "Give me that DiGiorno."
I know. Ooh, you know what I had the other day that was brought me back? Tostino's pizza. Did you
That's
ever
good.
have those little square cardboard goodies when you pour
The pizza rolls? Yeah.
No, not the pizza rolls, they're Tostino's pizza. They're like a
Oh, yeah, they were like less than
square
$1 a piece.
Yeah, they're not very big, but I made one the other night, and I was like, "Bringing me back. I love it."
I love eating cardboard.
I know, it was so good, and not good at the same time, but it was good.
It's always funny whenever we talk about, like, pizzas, I'll always remember that one Christmas party where we were all eating pizza at, like,
Oh,
fucking 2 in the
yeah,
morning.
we switched shirts, we traded shirts. I have a picture of you wearing my, like, purple sweater dress sweater, and I think you had a T-shirt or something.
Yeah, and
That
somebody
was
made
so
the
fun. That was like that's like the good old days. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't know, that Christmas party was fun, and that was actually the first time I ever had an edible as well
yeah.
at my
Yeah,
boss's house.
and for fun fact, so it wasn't you, but just in case anybody ever thinks of this, if I'm ever even if I'm not inebriated in any way, shape, or form, it's probably not a great idea to ask me what I really think of you, unless you
Oh,
know I
no.
love you.
Yeah.
If
No,
I don't know
I
you,
would never even ask you that anyway. 1, I don't care, and 2, I don't know what your answer is gonna be, but whatever it is gonna be real fucking honest, and I don't ask people questions that I don't want the answer to, if they're an honest person.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
Steven, you and I are both the same type of people. I'm sure this has happened to you. Someone will ask me something, I'm like, are you sure you want me to answer that?" Like, I've asked you that before because I'm like, I need you don't come at me with, like, "Do I look fat in this outfit?" And don't ask me some shit like that unless you want I mean, my friends don't ask me that, but they'll be like, "Hey, does this fit good or is it" I'm like, "That cut's not for you." Like, whatever it is, that but, yeah, I can't imagine asking you, "What do you really think of me?"
I mean, you're a pain in the ass, but I like you.
For sure. I am a
Yeah, and look who's talking, right?
yeah, like,
Fucking
look at us on this fucking podcast.
yeah. All right, well, I mean, we're getting there, like, let's end it for today.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get Phil back? I don't know.
I know, Phil, hanging out with your family.
Yeah. As always, blah, 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 subby slub, like, ideas and comments, Jimmy Jams.